I'm thankful for what I get from YouTube, and part of that is all this content that I would not be able to get because the RIA is so stingy, and all the people that support them, and all these musicians like the Eagles, the has-beens. I'm sorry to say it, but Don Henley, you are a has-been. I mean, look at your age. How many people are going to listen to stuff from 40 years ago? I mean, you probably think people would listen to stuff that was from 80 years ago, but it's a very small subset of the people at large that listen to quality arts content. You wouldn't even listen to it at the time of the 70s. I mean, how much of stuff that was showing up on PBS would you listen to? Because it wasn't representative of your generation. Now, your generation is not representative of the current generation. You can incorporate your music into the current generation, but it doesn't make it that it's relevant anymore. And I would say that you have less humility than, say, John Mellencamp, who knows that his content is not relevant anymore and expresses it. And he finds his art in other things. He paints, and I respect his point of view more than I respect Don Henley. And Don Henley, your own guitarist, um, trying to recall his name. See, that's how in the forefront his name is. Guy who sings "Life's Been Good to Me So Far." It was also in the James Gang. My own brother didn't even know. My own brother didn't even know. Um, he was in the James Gang. Dang, I can't even recall his name. See, that's what's going to happen. Where all of us guys that younger guys, younger than you, are going to get dementia, and we're going to forget all your music. We won't be sharing it. I mean, we're just going to forget everything. It's going to escape us. But your guitarist um, expressed that whenever his solo stuff doesn't work, he returns to the mothership. The mothership is the Eagles. You guys will never produce anything that sounds as good as Hotel California. Hotel California was probably representative of what was going to happen to you as a result of Hotel California, was that it was going to be hell. You're not going to be able to escape it. You know, you're not going to be able to get away from the success of that song. Maybe you will finally, and maybe people just forget about the song and forget about you. What I would do is I would try to take the humble approach to it. You can make money off of the yuppies and the what my dad would call them, preannuated hippies. Um, they're only going to last so long. They're going to get dementia, and they're going to forget. They're going to forget all, even the stuff that they would never forget. And then there's not going to be new blood because you're not going to be up playing like you did. There are going to be other people that are going to take on the. They're going to they're going to take the torch. They're going to play your tunes, but you're going to pass on. You can't guarantee that your families are going to live off of the success that you've made in this life. And would you really want that if you passed off all the money that you made now onto future generations? What does that do to them? It's called a parasitic lifestyle. They live off of your money. They have no reason to to develop value in there, and they're going to look for value, their self value, and as long as they're living off the money, is it going to be successful or not successful? In such cases, that usually the case is when money plans many generations of um, freedom from survival. They become weak. It weakens them. They become, and it leads them to drink and do drugs, and they don't find satisfaction until they start to work, and then they find satisfaction in working. Um, so it's not a bad thing to let future generations, um, unless they're making music. So you start a record company and you involve the future generations into that. What are you adding to the universe? Walden Woods? I mean, even Thoreau was flawed. He thought that he could go without an education and live like a caveman in the woods. And the truth of the matter is that he needed an education in order to be satisfied, and that was through reading newspapers and other authors and stuff like that. So his own ideas were flawed. Everybody is everybody has flaws, but don't expect people to value the things you value, and don't expect people to buy into your creations um, forever. And don't expect that somewhere out there is somebody copying your content illegally, and it's a market that you're not going to ever collect money on. That there's always a loss in all kinds of businesses. In the grocery store business, the loss is in products that will lose their. I mean, they go bad and they have to toss them. Even whenever they don't go bad, the dates they put on products are not actual dates that the things go bad. It's set by the manufacturer. It's not set by the food and drug industry much. They probably do that for meats, but the thing is that you can eat bad stuff and it won't kill you. It just tastes awful, and so it's just a best by date. It's really just to give the consumers a consistent experience, a predictable experience. And when it goes bad, it's unpredictable. It's an awful experience. They don't want to have that, so they put dates on this stuff, and then they toss this stuff into their dumpster, and then they have to guard the dumpster, make sure nobody gets stuff out of the dumpster because that's competing with their market, right? Or do they send that to a food bank? And is the food that they're providing the food bank nourishing? Because it's bad enough that people go without food, but it can be just as bad to them to not have nourishment. If they end up just eating all the time cakes and drinking Mountain Dew, is that going to permit them to subsist for much longer? Is it going to lead to all sorts of health problems down the road? So the thing is we have to be concerned about nourishment as well as the food we provide. We also have to be concerned about, um, I mean, which is going to have more an effect on the future, Don Henley, that you provided quality housing for homeless people, or that you put some money into the Walden Woods. I would say more so for the housing, because there are going to be people that are going to be permitted to find security in this housing, and then they go out, find a job, and they're going to want to give back to it, and they're going to keep in mind who gave it to them in the first place. It may not offer value today. It may resurrect a market for you in the future, because people want to see who it was that brought them their security, even as if it's a small housing development. it would show you where it would show them where your heart was. If your heart is not with the homeless, then Jesus is for the homeless. Jesus didn't give a shit about people's music. I mean, as far as an art, yes, give them something to satisfy. But I mean, what does your music really say? Who's it giving? What is it really saying to people? Is it the blues? Is it communicating something? Oh, I know there are ones like the King of Hollywood is an example of who you can come in contact with if you look to the solution to all your problems is moving to Hollywood and becoming a star, because there are plenty of failures in Hollywood. Um, I would say the best Hollywood to go to if you're an actor is probably go to New Mexico, because it is a land that cannot be corrupted. Um, Mainly because there's nothing to corrupt. The other thing is that it's perfectly dry. It's great for film, and it's great for studios. And there are studios there that Sony's got, and there are a lot of artists there. And you don't have to make movies. You can make any kind of art you want in New Mexico. And there are no tall buildings. It's actually an ordinance in New Mexico to not have buildings over 3 stories. There is some buildings that are really tall, but that's only because they're banks. They got one big tall bank down on Central that I have no doubt Microsoft, whenever they were developing their software in the early stages when they were making BASIC for the Altair back in the early 70s, I'm sure they knew about the first bank of that was on Central that's as tall as, it's just above everything. You can see it from miles off because there's nothing else in Albuquerque that's that tall, unless you go down to Old Town, and Old Town is way off to the side. Nobody can see it. It's like off. It's at a lower point because it's down by the river. If anybody is like, who cares about New Mexico? Breaking Bad was filmed in Albuquerque. So if you don't give a shit about New Mexico, you can take your Breaking Bad video and toss it in the trash, because that was New Mexico. Silverado was filmed in New Mexico. There are a lot of things you have no idea about New Mexico. Los Alamos was where the atomic bomb was created. How much of an effect did that have over the world? So you don't really know until you get out there and find what's out in the world. You don't know what might inspire you. You don't know the effect that you have on the world. You don't know who your consumer base is or who your fans are. You may hear the names of the places, but do you go to them? Do you know them? Do you know the people there? Do you know the environment they're in? Do you realize that environment not even be hospitable to your style? Is it hospitable to your style? How much do you really know? How much should you really know? As an artist, do you really want to know? How much do you really want to know? It may help you or it may hurt you. Asking what if is not a sin. That's what Jimi Hendrix did. He asked his guys, go out and can you tell me how many of the black people did you see? How many Hispanics? How many? I wouldn't think that that's really a good way of determining your audience, but he was trying to get diversity. He wanted diversity. He wanted to be acceptable by the norm, and the norm is everybody. The reason why American content or Western content tends to be acceptable in the international world is probably because of what America stands for. But it's also possibly the case that it's so much cheaper to get good quality musical content from the West than it is from any other place in the world. And because of that, it's produced an international an international chart that's full of people from the West and nobody from India, nobody from France, nobody from Spain, nobody from Europe. And, you know, I went about looking for the international playlist of music videos and I did not find them. I found American content. I saw the American content culturally homogenizing everything. That's the word we used back in the 90s. It's still the truth. We're homogenizing the world into America. And they're going to want the things that we want in America. And we're going to have to provide that. And what kind of world is that? Is it green? Is it brown? I mean, in terms of are they going to need a lot of coal? Can we even provide that, given what's happening to the environment? There would be some people that say, well, all that stuff is hooey. You can bring that to the table the next world meeting among all the ambassadors, and if you say it's a bunch of hooey, and they think it's not, they're not going to respect anything you have to say. You bring to the table absolutely nothing that is of concern to them. China's not going to listen to you. India's not going to listen to you. Spain is not going to listen to you. Nobody's going to listen to you. You'll just be this group of Americans off to the side that have this dream that everybody wants, but they're finding it in their own world, and they don't necessarily need America anymore. Our money's going to be absolute fiat. It's going to have no value after a while. Just the same way as that Russia's is going to be as a result of what Putin's doing. But, now that people don't have much value, America's not doing anything about what's happening in Ukraine. And for good reason. They don't want to start World War III, but how would they know that it's going to start World War III? Maybe this is just the tip of the iceberg of what Putin's bringing about. What if this is going to lead to other things that are worse? But I'm not saying that they should go out there and invest in trying to protect Ukraine. I think it's turning around, and it's actually my belief that we should never have gone to war in Iraq, because it was our own impression of Iraq that there was evil there whenever we were not paying much attention to the mote in our own eye. The mote is like a log in your own eye. Therefore, you cannot see your brother. You have to remove the log before you can clear the speck from your brother's eye. And maybe I'm trying to clear a log from my. I'm not clearing the log from my eye, but what experience do I have with managing government or any of that kind of stuff? And you could say the same thing about me, but I just, I'm speaking my mind. I'm presenting it out there. You can either listen to it or not. And I jump from topic to topic. I'm really just trying to satisfy myself. And this is just what happens, and I'll lay this plain. When I get off, I get really chatty. I get really preachy. And I got off today. I won't go into details on what that means. You can draw your own conclusion. But whenever your brain is full of dopamine, it makes you super chatty. That's the reason why people on cocaine become real talkative, is because their brain's full of dopamine. And my assumption of what the dopamine does is it makes any kind of topic, whatever it is, it brings out, it takes away your inhibitions to speaking out. And it makes it really easy for you to be confident in what you're saying, even if what you're saying is complete bullshit. But I believe that it's necessary for me to have that drug so that I can get out and communicate, because otherwise I'd be too depressed or um, too judgmental of myself to ever come out and say anything. And half the time I don't even know what I'm going to say. Most of the time I don't even know what I'm going to say. I'm just like, it's just coming into me, and I say it, and then later on I'm just kind of like, where the heck did that come from? Where did I get the idea for that? How did this come into being? And so, if people find value in it, great. I just don't want to know about it, because one of my big sins is ego, arrogance, self-importance. And I'm pretty self-important in playing a side, and I'm going to go in there and play that. But I found out that it's a lot more fun to play as what is called an NSO character, because you can't use faction chat. So even though I'm compelled to go and tell everybody we need to go over here and do this and do that on the map, it's allowed me the freedom to do what it is that needs to get done myself. And then I can't blame myself if I gave people the wrong advice. And that way I can live apart from it. And I don't really pay much attention to what people say on here. It's really not. I'm not here to be a content creator for YouTube and make lots of money. I'm not interested in it. I don't like advertisements. I would not be that kind of person. I wouldn't have a Patreon. I'm not trying to better my content. I'm not trying to become an absolute best singer. I'm not here to get on American Idol and give a shit about television. I don't want to be on television. That's like too much too soon. I would rather if it was ever going to build, it was going to build over time, and it would be built people knowing full well the kind of person I am, knowing what I am, knowing who I am, and all that goes with it, so they aren't surprised if the shit hits the fan. And no shit's going to hit the fan because I've already thrown the shit out. And so if any shit hits the fan, it's already out there to hit all the fans. I'm throwing shit at the fans, by the way.